All right, good morning, everybody. Let's see, find a spot for this thing. There we go. That's on. It isn't on yet. All right. Go to my chair. My desk, rather. Good morning. All right. Rough in this pose. Go from there. Little test yesterday over here. I'm kind of play around with these acrylics a bit. Add a lot more to what's going on here. So I've got do some mixed reference today. Fill in some of these backgrounds with the sketch, and then so we can add in. Some costume onto this reference that you can't see, but using a reference. I think it's from Graphit, so it's from their kit of packet of wide-angle shots. So that comes up a little further. Pose in, and then good morning, welcome. Go for it. So I'm going to fill in the background too. It's not just an empty space like I did with yesterday's. Alright, let's get the outfit on here. So I've got these post-apocalyptic cosplay outfits. I thought it would be fun to throw on here. Good morning. Try to scoot this over a little bit. Big boots down here. Put those on. How are we doing so far here? All right. Okay, I think. Alrighty, so we're going to put in the back over here. Good morning. Alright, so what are we putting in the background? We'll come back to that later. Let's see, what else do I got up here? I should have thought about this ahead of time, probably, huh? This. No. Maybe some of this would be good. Interesting, I think. Then let's stick a big animal back there or something. And maybe some animals. Good morning. Nope, I'm mixing up some reference with some outfit stuff I found on Pinterest, and along with some background elements that I'm pushing into it. So it comes from their wide-angle lens kit, I guess. If you go on ArtStation, you can find a bunch of reference that artists, well, that the people have posted up there for sale. But a lot of times you can find ones that are free, and so there's like a number of these that I have that I found that were free packs, and this was a free sample pack. So I tried to like keep an eye out for those. Sometimes like ArtStation will say it's like $1, but it's actually a code to get it for free. Try to just leave the environment here. Not worry about adding anything else into it. I do a little test here. So I did a little test yesterday with some acrylic stuff, and so I wanted to kind of play around with that some more. So now we kind of get our drawing in there. I'm gonna use this. Try this out. This clear gesso I bought. Acrylic's always been kind of a bane in my life, or like it's something that I didn't enjoy using in school at all. So I kind of avoided it. But last semester, so let me keep a really thin mark on there, I guess. I had an illustration class, and they wouldn't let me use oil on campus because they don't have the proper facilities for it. And so so I was like, well, I'll go ahead and use acrylic. And I liked a couple of things. Well, one thing especially that I did. Well, a couple of things actually. But let's see, what is the tape edge? Super thin tape here. It's right there. There it is. So I bought this tape thinking, my brain thought this tape was like twice as wide as it was, but it's like really, really thin. Anyway, I thought I would try some pages where I just kind of fill it up with acrylic stuff. I can use my airbrush and other things, and then just however long it takes as a way of practicing. So that's what we got going on here. Stick that over there, I guess. Oops. Put this right up to there. Yeah, I bought like a bunch of this tape. Didn't realize how thin it is, but I can use it kind of as a really thin border on here. And then put some other tape on top of it so it blocks off the protects the surface underneath. So I've got some paper here to stick under these. And to protect the other study I did over there as well. It's the other thing I kind of want this tape for. So let's scoop that over just a little bit more. So this is going to go under there. Oh, poor dog. Let's see. Let's go under there. Lift that up a bit. That come down. Got a palette off to the side. There we go. That's better. Oh, out. Making a mess over here, of course. So I might just try and spend a couple of days on these rather than just do them all at once. Spend a good hour on it as an experiment. Up there. Goes right there. Probably need that one over there as much. And we need this one at the top. So yeah, that's what's going on here. It's not a copy, but it's probably people I'm being influenced by that I don't always remember the names of. Admitting potential inspirations. Just get everything covered up so everybody's all safely protected. It's funny, I always try to be like really economical with my tape, but then it lasts for like years, and so, you know, should just roll with it, right? All right, so step one. Let's get in some gesso on here. There's my little roll down there. There you are. Put a couple layers of. Let's see. Open up this bottle yet. These are kind of just sketches I'm experimenting with here. The top of the sketchbook. Keep in mind, I guess. Alright, I'll rinse that off real quick. Let's blow dry this thing real quick too, so it dries a little faster. One more coat. Alright. Nice and dry, right? That's always the important part. Everybody dried off. I guess I can move this over a little bit. There we go. Alright, nice and warped. Paper is really built for this, that's why I'm using it kind of as a experimentation surface. So I think what we're going to do next is, where's my paint set? Move my book out of the way. Get my color bucket out, set that to the side. Hopefully it doesn't fall over. That's right, I need to use this wax paper. I forgot about you. I'm just using the paper towels yesterday, just doing a little thing. What I really want is some wax paper for your palette. So for a palette, I use, I recommend generally people use a cooking pan. This is just a smallish cooking pan. Put some wet paper towels on it, and then you put wax paper over that, and you have yourself a nice little working wet palette surface to work with. So we're going to get some worms in there first. It's relatively thin and transparent. Got some Indian yellow. I have a whole bunch of like paints I bought a long time ago when I had to teach an acrylic class at Kutztown University, or a water-based media class. And so still have a lot of that kind of left over. So these warm colors out. Let me get some cold ones out. Maybe the background a bit. Got your Prussian blue like that. Well, let's get this blue and this purple. Put the cold stuff over on the right for now. Well, I'll put it where I want to put it, just like right here. I like to arrange my palette more or less like a color wheel pattern. And that way it's just easier to manipulate it around. And then where to put those brushes at? I mean, part of what kind of got me going with this is I was like, hey, I really want to use more of these some paper towels. I need to get these shop towels out to last longer. They're better. But a lot of ways I try to treat whatever medium I'm using more or less the same. So whether I'm using oils or acrylic or digital, kind of want to treat it kind of similar. Let's see, acrylic medium. That way, it's easier for me to think about. So, like when I'm painting on the computer, I have my drawing. I usually lay in some values or some flat colors. should have got some green out, huh? So we'll get this thing wet a bit. Now the water will flow a little easier. Wet as possible. Just kind of staying in mostly the background. Well, usually when I'm kind of putting in color, whether it's digital or traditional media, I like to kind of scatter the color around a bit. I want to keep it thin here just because I want to be able to see my drawing. I don't want that to completely disappear. That's under the gesso, so wiping on it won't damage it, hopefully. And dry that off. That seems like a good idea, right? I should check out that book. I've heard of it, but I've never read it. I think I saw a copy on eBay or something. I should really just kind of see what they do. Yeah, but that gets you the atmosphere, right? So, get some color in here. So I think we're going to go ahead and her shadows. Yeah, I mean, like the things that are like true don't change. Like the buttons you push in Photoshop might change over time, right? Or there might be new programs that come up or new systems, but that never really changes that much. I gotta get the shadows knocked off. But yeah, generally speaking, that's it's like the principal thing matters. So like when they're putting in the background color first, they're just trying to establish uh, an even tone over everything. Again, acrylic's never been my thing, so we'll see how this actually turns out. But goals kind of spend like an hour, on this stuff per day. So see how far I can get in a short amount of time. Yeah, it kind of gets, if you start with the background, everything's kind of got to work with that atmosphere, the ambient effect of the background, and then that should, keep things from going too crazy. In theory, right? It's like, you know, one of the principles I like to follow is to go from foreground to, or well, you just kind of get the whole effect down, and then this is acrylic. Acrylic's not actually my most experienced medium. Probably maybe my least of the painting. Well, there's mediums I haven't done, but like in caustic or something like that. Or, what's it called? It's made from milk. Done a little bit of a tempera, but not enough to say I know anything about it. But I started with drawing, just doing some using some reference for a pose, mixing it with what's it called? Some other references from Pinterest or whatever, and then kind of found some other stuff I could put as a background. What do I primarily work in? Well, I work in a lot of different things. Digitally, I can work in most programs. I've been doing more with iPad over the last few years. From digital stuff, do a lot of ink drawing. I like that quite a bit. And then I like burnt lumber out for some of the outfit here. Brown is really orange, so everybody wonders that. But so yeah, I do a lot of stuff. But inking is definitely more in my area of expertise. Oil painting, I'm pretty good at that. Done that for a long, long time. Not so much illustration, oil painting, but like painting. But so that's what I would say is my main medium in terms of like natural media. It's like any drawing medium I'm pretty comfortable with. Pastel, acrylic, especially if it's monochromatic. Then painting, oil painting is probably my most experienced medium. I like wash a lot. Watercolor I don't have as much with that either, but I like watercolor. And then what else do I like? Acrylic's kind of something I'm coming back to. It's something I've kind of avoided for a long time because it kind of messed with my brain a little bit. But I think kind of coming back to it now, I look at it differently than I did as a student when I didn't like it very much. Create a band of green to contrast inside of here. It's funny, I was going over some student work the day before yesterday, and I have a sci-fi illustration class I'm doing. They're all just doing everything pretty much digitally, which I'm a little sad by, but whatever. That's kids. But I removed your question. What do you mean? I see your question. What do you primarily work in? So I see a question. I think maybe just scrolled above your thing. But again, those are my main mediums. Wrong bucket. I'm going to dry this off and reassert the drawing, I think. Brown, it's kind of almost more of a local color, but it does work as a warmer tint, I guess, too. Yeah, I like for things to serve multiple purposes if I can. If possible. Again, a lot of times if I'm laying in something like this, like my big goal is to kind of just get the gestalt down. I've seen people paint who do like it's called window shading, where basically they start in one spot and completely finish as they go. And I've never liked that method. Like it just doesn't strike me as being very fun per se. Um, let's see. I guess we'll mix up the brown with that and use some smaller bushes in here so I can assert the drawing a little bit more. That should do. So I kind of get some drawing reasserted. There's another retarder thing here. I saw a great little tip where a guy was like, hey, what you do, instead of like mixing retarder in, you put it in a little spray bottle, a certain proportion, and then you can kind of mix it up with the other paint so it'll slow the drying. But I do like the default to a warmer undertint, generally speaking. There's reasons for doing other ones, but that's my default. All right, let's get this drawing on here. So where stuff is at. I'm not looking for it later. Oh, okay. Were you at VCU or? I never know who people are, or some other school I was at. At a certain degree, I'm a little worried I'm getting myself in trouble here. Hopefully I left an okay impression. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'm here now, obviously, but I do where I'm kind of vocal about my concerns about people using AI in the classroom. We have a number of professors who are very excited about it, and I am vocally concerned. And it's pretty clear they don't take those concerns very seriously. Um, and I don't know why. There's some puzzle piece that I am unaware of. That the whole justification just seems to be, well, people are using it, therefore we must. And I don't sometimes find that to be a compelling argument. Because I can provide the opposite of that. It's not like it's a good one. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like my answer's always been to them is even if it's required in the workplace, which it may be, and I've met a lot of people where that's happening. They don't like it. It's definitely a thing that's happening. We don't add anything to their abilities and their education by including it here. And I found kind of a division being people that are primarily what I would call production artists versus kind of idea people. It's not an absolute, um, but there's definitely a difference between people that are you consider like your production types, your 3D modelers, or your people involved with the final product more. Like they're definitely more in favor of it. Um, so that's definitely something I've seen. Um, I don't know if they're just hoping to remove like the creative people from the process or what, but I definitely see that a lot. What's funny is that one of the arguments at my last school at Ringling was that we're going to be the creative directors of these systems, and that will be the ones properly attuned our tastes so that we can be the ones that make decisions about what gets made and how it gets made and position ourselves that way. And I said that's not how it's going to work. Like they're looking to completely replace the creative input. Like, they don't care about that. If it works like they say, like there won't be any need for creative input at all. It just won't exist. And they looked at me like I was a crazy person. Well, yesterday I saw an ad for a company that claims, I don't think it's actually probably how it works, but they claim they have a creative director AI agent. And so I'm just like, there it is, right there. That's the intent. Like to not see that, like it's just for me, it's just silly. I don't understand. It just seemed like it's an obvious thing to take note of. Let's see, the shoulder actually comes out over here. I lost the shoulder completely. So it's like, what are we even doing? And my argument is that we should really shift to pursuing more excellence, deeper skills, and not worry about it. But people look at me like I'm a crazy person sometimes. What are you talking about? Everything's perfectly fine. I'm like, not according to what you've been saying. I do wish my thing about acrylic is always it's a little sticky, even though like this stuff's I'm keeping it pretty wet and thin, it's still pretty sticks. As far as I've always kind of just stuck with oil painting. Speaking of Ringling, well, the thing is, like, one of the arguments I always made about that expression, know the rules before you break them, is really there are no rules. There's things that kind of generally work or general common practices. You might call those rules, but really what it is, they're tools. And tools can be used for a broad variety of applications. But I've never liked that expression, like know the rules to break them, because it implies that like the rules are just there to kind of get in your way, and I've kind of always tried to reframe it as they're not rules, they are tools in your toolkit. And so like you can use a hammer for a broad variety of things, you know, but there's general purposes for it, right? So you know, no matter what medium you're using, it might have like rule sets associated, like acrylic. Yeah, like it dries fast, right? That's kind of one of its things. And there's ways of slowing it down or speeding it up or whatever too, but that's kind of its whole shtick is you know, it dries fast. Oil, you know, dries slow, and so there's certain things you can do with it that you can take advantage of because of its unique working properties, but they aren't necessarily, you know, rules. You don't have to paint a certain way necessarily. But I always like to think of it in terms of tools and you know, what you're using it for. Which also annoys me because people talk about AI just being a tool. And yeah, I tell them it's like a telescope that makes you go blind. You know, it's a crutch that breaks your leg every morning. You know, it's so it's good to know like the common working practices, but they should never be really long-term limits on what you do necessarily. They can be, but um, that's generally how I like to think about those things. Is that it's less about the rules you must obey. There are consequences for breaking, you know, certain common practices, like you're using oil paint and you're doing long-term paintings where you're painting paint over paint, and if you don't follow fat over lean, your painting will crack. Might anyway if you don't follow it really well. Um, but so like those things can be important. You know, you generally don't want to mix oil paint with your acrylics. But there are people that do. Like if you look up the illustrator C.F. Payne, he mixes a whole bunch of stuff up together for his illustrations, but is not concerned about the longevity of his pictures when he's working in illustration. Um, that isn't part of his concern set, I guess. He's just making stuff up in an hour, huh? Hello, over there. And I just saw some people commenting over there. So, yeah, so that's generally how I like to think about things because I think it helps me look at opportunities rather than limitations. Because you'll always find exceptions to what they call rules, right? Those always exist. So if you kind of fixate on things being rules as opposed to an opportunity, then right up to but that's how I like to think about it and talk about it. So I think we're about an hour, so I want to do one more thing and then put a pause on this till later, probably tomorrow. Let's see. Gray, yellow. Different effects, right? This one will warm it up. They're both pretty transparent, but I'm going to go with the yellow. One of the goals I've had too lately is getting into using my hairbrush that I bought a while ago. Something I don't have that much experience with historically. Just gonna get some water in here. It's all mixed up. Just to get it to a consistency of skim milk, so put water in. It's still too thick, I think. Too much paint in there. Probably put more in there. That feels much better. And put a little bit of it doesn't dry up inside of the airbrush too quick. All right. It's on. And there's the flow improver. Throw that in there. Alright, so it looks. What's it do for that? Yesterday? What was that? Let's take clean it up for that. There we go. Barely see the effect. It's kind of warming up everything. Appreciate that. Maybe we'll get these out of things. Push it around focal points. This stuff out. That's much yellow. Onward. Water in there. Let's see what that does. You kind of see how that instantly warmed up the whole thing. I'll take that with you. Right. A little bit. I'll put some shadow tones down. Some tartar in there and some water. And let's see, for another color, oh, it's gray, I think. Spread that around a bit. Stir that up. A little tray here. I'm not sure what they were trying. Little liquids or something on, but wish they were a little taller and narrower. I'll put a bit of that. But, okay, I guess. Make it too thick and it spatters, which could be nice too, but I'll save that for later. Let's put a little bit more water in there. There we go. And dump that in the bucket. Let's see how that goes, right? Well, look, we got ourselves our first spot of the morning. Got a little bit of mess. I know people will make kind of the big bottles of stuff to make their own pigments. It's with the drip bottles on top, which I think probably would work better. There we go. Behind her. I can see why someone like a Michael Whalen would use this for his background. It's like a better mixture in there. Empty. Let's see, should that stirred up properly? Those are just bubbles. When do I usually go live? I have to try to go in the mornings. So usually between 8 and 9. I'll try to actually get it a little bit earlier, about an hour. And then I've been going live just more often. Just because I'm working on some stuff, so. Let's get some water in there. So generally speaking, that's the case. You just have, have to get up and W-A-L-K the dog, and deal with that first thing in the morning. He's got priority scheduling. I usually get up pretty early, so let's get this paint out of here. But I think that's where I'm going to pause today. If I come back to this tomorrow morning, spend about an hour or so on it, and see where we go. Part of it's me experimenting with stuff, so it's not really for anything specific. So that's, keep it small, keep it simple. I think tomorrow we'll start with try to knock out things like the face first. That way it's just out of the way, and then work out from there. Make it feel I hope. So that's sitting there for a bit. Yeah, thanks everybody that came in. I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you all later.